This was the 5th year of my relentless campaign to be with Evan Hayes, and he was finally tired of it. In my shabby little apartment, his handsome face was etched with fatigue. Mike, what's the excuse for tricking me into coming here this time? Are you sick? In a car crash? Or is this another one of your so-called suicide attempts? He paused for a second, his voice full of resignation. Tomorrow's my birthday. If it's not too much to ask, I wish you would just disappear for one day. Let me have some peace and quiet, okay? Leaning against the metal headboard, I took a drag from my cigarette, momentarily stunned. Sure, that's easy enough. I glanced at the countdown on my wrist, the numbers ticking away faster and faster the farther I was from him. I let out a lazy laugh. What a pain. Guess I can't bother you anymore after this. Well, happy early birthday then. You'll definitely be happy this time without me around. Open the door. The frantic pounding on the door, punctuated by his low growl, hammered against my chest. I smiled faintly. I knew this trick would still work. Mike opened the door. When I didn't answer, a rare note of panic crept into his voice. Was he afraid I was going to die? I waited, calculating the time, before shuffling to the door in my boxers and unlocking it. A large, well-defined hand immediately jammed itself in the opening as the door creaked open. The next second, he slammed the iron door against the wall with a deafening bang. The sound echoed through the empty room. The door was open. He saw that I was in one piece. The flicker of concern in Evan's eyes vanished, replaced by a cold look on his handsome face. What, I thought you were dying. How are you still alive? Even after all these years of getting used to the way he talked, the sarcastic, mocking tone still made my chest tighten. I forced a smile, subtly taking in his slightly sweaty hair and clenched jaw. I teased him on purpose. What's wrong? Evan, were you actually worried about me? I saw a flash of regret cross his face. My heart warmed, and the tension in my chest eased. But his next words were like a bucket of ice water, freezing me on the spot. Hasn't this happened enough times? Evan scoffed, his gaze shifting away from me. You love threatening people with your own life. So spit it out. What do you want this time? The air in the room suddenly felt heavy. I was mortified. My lips were dry, and I wanted to sneak a glance at him but didn't even dare to lift my head. I just scratched my scalp and mumbled, I'm sorry. 5 years ago, it was love at first sight for me with Evan Hayes. That's when I started chasing him relentlessly. Too bad Evan was straight. No matter how much I flirted, he wouldn't budge. When he hated me the most, he even found ways to avoid me for an entire day. That's when a dark thought crossed my mind. I came up with a terrible idea. I had a friend buy me something and, during a crowded party, I slipped the drug into Evan's drink. But I regretted it the second I did it. Looking at the flushed face of the man I'd tricked lying on the bed, a cold sweat broke out on my back. I instantly realized what a stupid thing I'd done, and all my previous courage deflated like a popped balloon. It's over. If Evan finds out I was the one who drugged him, I'll never, no, not even in my next life will I ever see him again. I swallowed hard, my hands trembling as I pulled out my phone to call an ambulance. But before I could react, he snatched the phone from my hand, his mind hazy, and pinned me beneath him. You drugged me. It was a statement, not a question. If I didn't already know he was a total lightweight who got wasted after one drink, I would have thought he was pretending to be drunk. And yet, despite his disheveled state, Evan seemed unusually calm for someone who was drugged and drunk. His tall, warm body held me down on the bed with an unyielding force. I wanted to open my mouth to defend myself, but as soon as I looked at that face I dreamed of for so long, all my explanations got stuck in my throat. Come on, this was the guy I'd been crushing on forever. If I said no, I'd be betraying my reputation as a punk. That night, my ass hurt for a full day. What do you really want? His voice pulled me back to the present. I saw the anger and impatience in his eyes. I hid the bitterness in my heart and grinned, sidling up to him and trying to sound casual. You're a hard man to get a hold of, Mr. Hayes. Can't a guy just miss you? My fingers traced the line of his throat, hinting at what I wanted. Evan suppressed his anger, his thin lips pressed into a tight line. What, is it fun to lie to me? His tone had the heavy feel of a coming storm. Realizing what was happening, I slowly backed away. The next moment, he grabbed my wrist, his grip so tight I couldn't break free. Mike, you're asking for it. I met his dark, intense gaze. My heart gave a frantic, uncontrollable leap. Crap, I think I pushed him too far this time. Ow, damn it, go easy. Evan, what the hell? Are you a dog or something? Evan didn't answer. Veins popped on his temples, and a bead of sweat rolled down onto my collarbone, making me itch. The small iron bed, barely big enough for one person, creaked and groaned under us, accompanied by my silent, furious cursing. What the hell got into him? Was it because I lied about having stomach cancer just to see him? That couldn't be it. I told every lie in the book to get him to meet me. Lately, he'd been seeing through my lies instantly, only deigning to come see me after I begged and pleaded. Could he have gotten into a fight with some new flame and decided to take it all out on me? The more I thought about it, the worse I felt. I remembered the news I'd seen that morning. My heart ached, and I started to struggle wildly. I lifted my leg to kick him hard in the shoulder. But Evan was ready for it. He caught my ankle in a death grip, his voice cold and strained as he forced out the words. Cut the crap. You went through all this trouble to get me here. Isn't this what you wanted? I saw the flash of scorn in his eyes. I fell silent, the fight going out of me. A string inside my head snapped. Fine. I rubbed the red marks on my wrist and pouted. I'll let you have this one. It was finally over. I lay on the bed, half dead. I felt the mattress dip as he got up, then spring back into place. With his back to me, Evan got dressed. The shirt covered his firm, well-defined muscles, and just like that, he was back to being that elegant, untouchable man who seemed above it all. I watched him silently, fumbling in the pocket of my pants, which had been violently torn off me, for a cigarette and lit it. Smoke curled around me. The small flame flickered, casting shifting shadows across the little room. It had started raining outside at some point. The steady dripping sound was getting on my nerves. Stomach cancer this time, Evan said calmly. His voice, still cool and emotionless, came from beside me. What's next? What's the next excuse you'll use to trick me into coming here? Sickness, a car crash, or another one of your so-called suicide attempts? Mike, you're not tired of crying wolf, but I'm getting tired of hearing it. A damp chill slowly spread through my heart. The phone on the nightstand suddenly rang. Evan's brow, which had been tightly furrowed, relaxed for a moment before he pushed aside the tissues covering it and picked it up. The voice on the other end was gentle. Evan, when are you coming back? Aunt Carol said she was going to stop by later to see you. If you're out with friends, I can just tell her to come by tomorrow. Evan seemed to glance at me, but maybe he didn't. In the dim light, his expression softened with a hint of patience. It's fine, Mom. I'll be over in a bit. He hung up. Evan turned around, and the light revealed the exhaustion on his handsome face. Mike, tomorrow is my birthday. If it's not too much to ask, I wish you would just disappear for one day. Let me have some peace and quiet, okay? Let me have some peace and quiet, okay? Can you stay away from me? Sorry, I'm not interested. Ever since I started chasing Evan, I heard things like that every single day. But I've always had thick skin. I'd either grin like an idiot and pretend I didn't hear, or I'd use it as an excuse to talk to him more. Basically, I never took his rejections to heart. Not until that accident in bed with him. I had been terrified and wanted to apologize, but seeing the pained, confused look on his face, I swallowed my words. I'm an orphan. I grew up in the system, never finished school, and became the most notorious punk in the neighborhood. Nobody ever taught me how to love someone. I just knew that when I wanted something, I had to get it. So that day, I blamed the whole thing on Evan, who was blackout drunk, and played the victim. I refused his grim offer of compensation and demanded only one thing, that he be my boyfriend. Of course, Evan refused. Later, when he got fed up with me pestering him, he started hiding from me again. But like I said, I'm a bad person by nature, a compulsive liar. If Evan wouldn't see me, I'd threaten him with my own life. Stomach cancer, leukemia, car accidents, I'd say whatever sounded most serious. I even twisted the truth, bringing up what happened that night over and over again. Sometimes, Evan would be in the middle of a business trip, and a single threatening picture from me would make him change his flight. He'd storm into my crappy little apartment to tear me a new one, and those were my happiest moments. After all, my moral compass is basically non-existent. All I know is that for years, I've used self-harm as a threat to get Evan to see me, and every time, he fell for it. Just this once, Mike. Evan looked down at me, his brow bone casting a shadow in the dim light. Leaning against the metal headboard, I took a drag from my cigarette, momentarily stunned. Sure, that's easy enough. I glanced at the countdown on my wrist, the numbers ticking away faster and faster now that he was about to leave. I let out a lazy laugh. What a pain. Guess I can't bother you anymore after this. Well, happy early birthday then. You'll definitely be happy this time without me around. For a rare moment, Evan looked stunned, as if he couldn't believe I'd agreed so easily. I put on my usual carefree act and flopped onto the bed like a dead fish. What, you gonna miss me? Well then, we've been dating for so long. Isn't it about time you introduced me to your family? Just as I expected. The moment I mentioned family, Evan's normally calm expression tightened. We had an agreement. We don't involve each other's parents. I pouted to myself. I don't have a mom. What kind of agreement is that? My hand, hidden under the blanket, nervously fiddled with the small box. I hesitated, wondering if I should take it out. But Evan had already made the choice for me. What's that? He moved quickly, grabbing the hand I tried to hide. His eyes widened slightly when he saw the velvet box. Mike, we are never getting married. Evan's voice was heavy, and he looked at me with dead seriousness. I know. Evan hates gay people. Exposed, I stammered out a denial. Who wants to marry you? Can't I just like it for myself? Who said this was for you? Evan stared at the small box for a long time before finally letting out a soft I snatched the ring, the one I'd saved up for so long to buy, from his hand and muttered, Anyway, I got you something else for your birthday. I'm keeping this for myself. His phone started buzzing again, a silent summons. I steeled myself, jumped out of bed, and pushed the still dazed man out the door. Okay, get going. At the doorway, Evan looked down and repeated, Remember our agreement. Don't bother my family. I wanted to pretend to be angry, to throw a tantrum and make a scene, but I couldn't even muster a fake smile. All I could do was force the corners of my mouth up. Yeah, I know. Before he left, Evan stopped me from closing the door. When I get back, we need to have a serious talk. About our relationship. I pursed my lips. The countdown on my wrist had stopped because he was touching me. But I knew that as soon as he let go, I would start dying again. So no thanks. This time, I'm gonna make sure you can never find me again. That's my birthday present to you. Knowing he wouldn't be easily fooled, I nodded emphatically. Sure. We'll talk when you get back, we'll talk. A wicked thought crossed my mind. Like hell we will. You can talk to my ghost. Discovering the countdown timer on my wrist was a complete accident. That afternoon, I was waiting for Evan at the gate of his university, like I always did. The sun was blazing. I hid in the shade of a tree, my eyes scanning the students leaving campus for the weekend. Bro, when's your boyfriend getting out? It's almost 5. You don't think he forgot and stood you up? Do you? My buddy next to me grumbled, sweat dripping down his face, trying to stir up trouble. His whining was getting on my nerves. How the hell should I know when your precious Evan is getting out? That guy's always on his guard. I even tried to buy his class schedule off another student, but no luck. I kept my eyes on the crowd while trying to sound cool. What do you know? This is what you call romance. Back in the day, when travel was slow, you only had time to love one person your whole life. Bro, there he is. My buddy was frantically giving me the signal. His lips puckered so far out they could have reached the next town over. I turned my head, and there he was, a tall, slender figure walking through the crowd. His profile was sharp and clean. He wore a crisp white shirt, looking cool and untouchable. He stood quietly in the crowd, scrolling through his phone with his long, elegant fingers, seemingly waiting for someone. Heh. Who else could he be waiting for? Definitely me. Damn, bro. Is that really your boyfriend? My buddy marveled, his eyes wide. He looks like a god. How did he end up with you? I completely ignored his last few mumbled words. After all, I was just a punk who dropped out of high school. Having a boyfriend that's smoking hot was bound to make people jealous. I chuckled to myself. But my mind was filled with images of how fierce Evan had been in bed last night. Damn it. My ass still hurt. I could barely walk. All because he saw me having a few drinks with some other people. His face got as dark as thunder. Did he really have to be so rough with me? I thought about the peace offering texts I'd sent last night, all of which had gone unanswered. I took a deep breath and told my buddy, "Okay, keep your mouth shut. I'm going in." I slipped on the rented white shirt, smoothed down my carefully styled hair, and walked confidently toward Evan in my slightly too big dress shoes. Slowly, subtle glances from all around started to focus on our corner. My face started to burn. I reached out and tugged on the corner of Evan's shirt. He looked up as if sensing me, his dark eyes cool and detached, but their expression changed when they landed on me. "What are you doing here?" His gaze made me nervous. I was about to apologize when a clear male voice called out from behind me. "Evan." He sounded a little out of breath, like he'd been running. My heart sank. "Oh, and who is this?" I didn't even have to turn around. I could feel the guy's curious eyes on me. But before I could get a good look, Evan casually took his hand and walked past me, his voice devoid of any emotion. "It's nothing. Just a solicitor." The wind carried his soft, low explanation to my ears. My brain completely shut down. I stood there until their figures completely disappeared from view. Pretending not to care, I turned to the crowd of onlookers and, with my face burning, played the part to the end. "Hey, buddy, want to hear about our new gym membership?" An annoyed voice from the crowd piped up. "Another solicitor? Don't you people know you're not allowed on campus?" Security. Security came. A whole wall of them. They pushed me and my buddy out of the school gates. My friend patted my shoulder but didn't say much. I stood defiantly at the gate for half an hour. I ignored the strange looks people were giving me. "What are you looking at? Never seen someone so handsome before?" But as soon as the audience had changed, I scurried away. The straight back I'd had on the way here was now slightly slumped. When I got back to my tiny one-room apartment, I cursed as I ripped off the shirt and washed away my clown-like costume under the shower. But before I could even think about confronting Evan, my vision started to blur at the edges, and my legs cramped up uncontrollably. In the last second before I passed out, I used my remaining strength to send a message to the pinned contact on my phone. "Crap, I think I'm dying. It hurts so bad." But what I was really thinking was, that bastard Evan. How dare he cheat on me? When I woke up, the first thing I saw was the same old shabby ceiling of my apartment. I rubbed my head. The first thing I did was check my phone. Evans was the only name in my contacts list. It had been 4 hours since I sent that message before passing out. Still no reply. You've got to be kidding me. Did he really just dump me like that? I sighed deeply, feeling a trembling pain start in my gut. At the same time, a loud ringing filled my ears, and a dull ache throbbed in my head. That's when the strange mark appeared. At first, I thought Evan had finally driven me crazy. Why else would I be seeing something like this? The black numbers were right there on my left wrist, ticking down one by one. It was deeply unsettling. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, or at worst, that I was hallucinating. But when everyone I told looked at me like I was seeing a ghost and acted as if there were no numbers on my wrist at all, I knew one thing for sure. Only I could see this countdown. So the question was, what was it counting down to? In an instant, it hit me. Holy crap, is this a countdown to my death? I've never been afraid of dying. People die every day in this world. Death is an ordinary, everyday thing. But not now. Now I had someone to care about. Someone I loved. If I died, I'd just be a lonely ghost. No one would remember me. And that jerk Evan would probably be thrilled I was finally gone, happy to be rid of the psycho. The thought of facing death all by myself brought a wave of loneliness so immense it felt like I was drowning. I chewed on my nails anxiously, not noticing that the door to my apartment had been quietly pushed open. "Mike?" Evan stood in the doorway, his voice a little hoarse, his messy hair falling across his forehead. I froze and looked over at him. He visibly relaxed. But when his eyes met mine again, his expression went back to being blank and unreadable. The smile he'd had for that boy this afternoon was gone, as if he saved all his bad moods just for me. The thought made me miserable. Why can't I ever be happy? So I lunged at him, throwing him down, and bit into the pale skin of his neck. "That's for dumping me. That's for cheating on me. I'll bite you to death." But when my eyes accidentally glanced at my wrist, at those black numbers, I made a startling discovery. The countdown had stopped. It stopped. In that moment, my already limited brain capacity went completely blank. Evan, pinned beneath me, tensed up, his dark eyes brewing a storm. "Get off." He was barely holding back, veins popping on his forehead as he resisted the urge to throw me off. That night definitely cemented his belief that I was a lunatic, because I clung to him, screaming. One minute I was laughing, the next I was crying, muttering prayers under my breath. Maybe I was born a psycho, because knowing that my life depended on the presence of another person, it didn't scare me. It just made me think that Evan and me, we were a match made in heaven. "Mike, you really need to see a doctor," Evan commented coldly. The battle had just ended. I lay on the damp bed like a dead dog. I watched him put on his jacket, button his shirt all the way up to his throat, and then slowly roll the sleeves up to his elbows. I really don't know how a mouth that warm could produce words so cold. To stay alive, I'd been finding ways, both obvious and subtle, to make physical contact with Evan. He noticed, but he turned a blind eye. Like right now, I was shamelessly resting my head against his broad back. Evan didn't stop me. He just said in a low voice, "I have a business trip the day after tomorrow. I'll be gone for about a week." He continued slowly, "So could you please hold off on your leukemia, kidney failure, and schizophrenia until I get back, okay?" I froze for a second, then said without batting an eye, "I'm coming with you." "A week? I'd be long dead by the time you got back." Evan was still perfectly calm. "No, I didn't let it get to me," and pressed on. "What about that guy from last time? Is he going?" A flicker of surprise crossed Evan's face, and he frowned. "You mean Julian? How do you know about him? Did you investigate him?" Evan was getting angry. "Mike, have I told you not to get involved with my family? If my parents find out about you, this thing between us is over immediately." "What thing between us? A sugar daddy relationship? You don't even give me money." "What relationship?" I retorted silently. Maybe because it was the first time I hadn't talked back, he realized he'd gone too far. Evan's tone softened as he slowly explained. "Julian is different from you. His situation is complicated. I don't want you to have too much contact with him. He's my brother, which makes him family." I picked at my fingers, not saying a word. "What if you knew? That love letter that showed up on your desk back then, the one that got us both labeled as gay, it wasn't me who wrote it. It was your good little brother. Would you still see him as just family then? What a pain. Why am I thinking about all this when I'm about to die?" After Evan left to take a call, I cleaned up the room and called my landlord to terminate the lease. It's not like we'd ever see each other again anyway. Evan was probably busy preparing for his birthday party tomorrow. By the time that busy man finally had a spare moment to think of me, it would probably be this time next year. I dragged my empty suitcase down the sidewalk. I looked around, trying to find a peaceful place to wait for death. Not a hotel. I couldn't die in someone's room and get cursed out for it. Not the side of the road, either. Even though I only made it through a few days of high school before dropping out to work, I knew that dying on a public street would be bad for the city's image. Some pissed-off commuter would probably end up kicking my corpse to vent their frustration. I couldn't be too close to Evan either. I was about to die. It would be pretty pathetic to still be hung up on some silly crush. I needed to find a place where no one would ever find me. After all, I had no idea what came after death. The timer on my wrist showed 3 hours left. I let out a breath, the reality that I was about to die finally sinking in. I couldn't help but curse out loud. Then I slapped myself. God, Jesus, Mary, I didn't mean to swear. I'm being sincere here. Please do me a favor. Let me be reborn into a good family next time. At least one that isn't without a mom and dad. I kept walking. The 6 o'clock sun was starting to set, and the city was bathed in the dim glow of streetlights. As I passed by a small park, I heard the noisy chatter of a group of kids. Look, Sam likes pink.
Sames a sisi.
Sissy. I am not. I looked over from a distance. 3 young kids were ganging up on a small, blushing boy, their laughter sharp and ugly. The boy in the middle was smaller than the others, skinny and delicate. If you didn't look closely, he almost looked like a girl. You are a sissy. My mom said boys don't like pink. Yeah. Sam, do you like boys? Sam likes boys, that's so grow. As the talk got more and more out of hand, I let out an annoyed TSK and dropped my suitcase. I sauntered toward the little punks with my hands in my pockets, trying to look tough. As I got close, I lunged forward, pretending I was going to hit them. The little cowards scattered like mice. He's gonna hit us. Only the boy named Sam, who couldn't run as fast, was left behind. Don't hit me. The kid wasn't even as tall as my waist. He covered his head with his hands and crouched down, trembling, the word scared written all over him. I couldn't help but laugh. I leaned down and gently tapped his head. Don't listen to them. I like pink too. Okay, you should go home now. I paused for a second, digging through the corners of my memory for the right words to comfort a kid. And don't forget to tell your parents on them, you hear? Okay, go on. I stood up and brushed the dust off my pants. It was time for me to go, too. As the countdown neared 0, I couldn't resist. Stuck in the middle of nowhere, with my phone's battery on its last legs, I called Evan. 5:48 a.m. The sky was just starting to lighten. The phone rang a few times, then was rejected. I called again, and it was rejected again, then went straight to voicemail. I was so angry I wanted to scream. Then I remembered he was probably still asleep at this hour and didn't like to be disturbed. But then again, if the call had been from that Julian guy, he probably would have answered. He really thought he was so clever. The only reason I pretended not to see him whispering on the phone with that Julian guy was because I loved him. Of course, I was never going to ask about their relationship. If I asked, what if Evan used it as an excuse to break up with me? I shivered from the cold, and my mind started to wander. My fingers were stiff, making it hard to type. Forget it. I won't send him a text. I tossed the phone, now dead, to the side and lay back with my hands behind my head. I watched the numbers on my wrist slowly tick down. 6:01 a.m. The late rising sun finally began to climb, its weak rays piercing the darkness. The city started to stir, and the sounds of people from the valley below began to rise. A chill spread from my fingertips to my heart. I curled up, feeling my life slowly ebb away. In the darkness, I closed my eyes. The pain vanished as my consciousness faded. I suddenly felt very light. I looked down. So this is what it's like to be dead. What about Evan? Does he know I'm dead? The thought crossed my mind numbly. The next second, my soul was yanked into the distance by an irresistible force. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Evan. He was standing in a corner of the garden, a frustrated look on his face. The person on the other end of his call seemed to be giving him trouble. He'd tried dialing several times without success. I tried to call out to him. Evan? He looked up as if he'd heard something, his dark eyes landing on me with an almost physical weight. In that moment, my heart started to pound uncontrollably. Evan's gaze lingered on my face for 3 seconds. Then, looking in my direction, he called out softly, Julian, right? I turned and saw Julian walking down the path. The light blue suit looked boyish on him. My heart settled back into my chest. I comforted myself. This makes sense. Not wanting to eavesdrop on the happy couple, I snorted, clenched my fists, and tried to leave, but an unknown force held me in place. I couldn't move. Evan, your mom sent me to get you. Everyone's here. They're just waiting for you, Julian explained, a little shyly. His familiar expression annoyed me for some reason. What the hell is this? I don't get off on being cheated on. Why won't you let me leave? As I was fuming silently, Evan's expression softened. He put away his phone and replied coolly, "Okay, I know." Julian followed quietly behind him. As they approached the crowd, he snuck up close, hiding his body behind Evan's back. I could only watch from the side and sneer. "You must be so happy, you dog. I'm dead now. No one's here to bother you anymore." Seeing Evan's cold, stern expression as he faced the crowd, my hands itched to wring his neck. Even if it wouldn't do any real damage, it would at least let me blow off some steam. Just as I was about to reach out, a small glint of light caught my eye. It was something Evan was wearing around his neck. I was stunned. I slowly moved closer to see. It was a simple platinum ring, strung on a chain and worn under his collar. It was a matching set with the one I'd bought him as a birthday present. But the ring was so expensive. It took all my savings, all the money I'd saved up from working for so long. I could only afford one. The other one, how could it possibly be on Evan? While I was still in a daze, Evan's mother appeared. Mrs. Hayes was 42 this year. Her well-maintained face was elegantly made up, making her look graceful and sophisticated. "Evan, you're so late. You've kept your aunts and uncles waiting," she said with a gentle smile, grabbing her son's arm with a hand painted with bright red nail polish, subtly separating him from Julian. Evan's expression had soured the moment his mother appeared, but Julian didn't seem to notice. He said excitedly, "Mrs. Hayes, I think Evan was busy with something. I saw him on the phone, but I think the other person's phone was off. He couldn't get through." On the phone, Mrs. Hayes's voice trembled slightly, but she quickly composed herself. She looked at her son with a smile, her gentle eyes pleading. "Evan, honey, it's your birthday. Whatever it is can wait." "Okay." Evan lowered his long lashes, hiding his emotions, and replied flatly, "Yeah, I know." I followed behind them. I saw Mrs. Hayes's sharp nails digging into the sleeve of Evan's suit jacket, leaving deep marks. Mrs. Hayes had a tragic past. Her husband, a man everyone said was honest and dependable, came out to the family shortly after she gave birth to Evan. Mrs. Hayes was a strong woman. She decisively divorced that coward. With a large settlement, she raised her son on her own. That's why she could never accept that her son was gay. Her life had already been turned upside down by a gay man. During Evan's sophomore year of college, a love letter written to him by another guy caused a huge scandal at the school. Mrs. Hayes had a complete breakdown. She went to the school, demanding to find the person who wrote it. But no one dared to confess. At a time like that, whoever came forward would be committing social suicide. A young Evan was cornered in the office by teachers and the principal, bombarded with questions. He just remained silent, not saying a word. The frantic woman raised her hand and slapped her son hard across the face. She screamed through her tears, her words like daggers. "Say something. Why won't you say anything? Do you want to be gay, too?" Before the second slap could land, I pushed through the crowd of onlookers and walked into the office. I wrote it. I can't bear to remember what happened that day. The image of Mrs. Hayes kneeling and begging me is still vivid in my mind. I might be a punk, but I wasn't so low that I'd insist on stealing someone's son. So when Evan asked me to disappear later, I agreed without hesitation. It was also because I knew my time was almost up. Even if I shamelessly clung to him, there wasn't much time left. But Mrs. Hayes's wariness toward Julian now was unexpected. Could it be that she knew that Julian was the one who wrote the love letter? The party continued. Guest after guest came to wish the man of the hour a happy birthday. But Evan's face remained dark, like his wife had just died. I hovered by his side in my ghost form. 10 seconds. In 10 seconds, Evan unconsciously frowned and touched the ring 8 times. Julian muttered to himself nearby as he watched Mrs. Hayes tirelessly introduce potential girlfriends to her son. All of them, without exception, were women. Evan, this is your Aunt Chloe's daughter. She just got back from studying abroad. You two are close in age, you should have a lot to talk about. If it feels right, you could try dating. Evan's at that age and he still doesn't have a girlfriend. As his mother, of course I'm worried. Mrs. Hayes wore a polite smile, chatting warmly with the other parents. If you didn't look closely, it was hard to see the exhaustion hidden in her eyes. So this is Evan? I've heard so much about what a wonderful young man he is. Seeing him today, he really is handsome. Come on, Jessica. Say hello to your big brother, Evan. The girl named Jessica was shy and didn't dare to look up. But at that moment, Evan suddenly spoke up. Thank you for your concern, ma'am, but I already have a partner. As soon as the words were out, the air froze. Time seemed to stop. Mrs. Hayes hissed under her breath. Evan, stop this. She turned to explain, the boy is joking. What partner? Someone who doesn't even show up for your birthday? What kind of partner is that? Mrs. Hayes's voice was firm, resolute. As she spoke, she seemed to get lost in a memory. I thought I saw a glint of tears in her eyes. Evan didn't argue further. He gave a slight nod and, using the excuse that he wasn't feeling well, led his mother away.
So,
Did you not like that girl today? It's okay. Mom can find others for you. Mom. Mrs. Hayes forced a smile, thoughtfully making an excuse for her son. Evan didn't answer. He deliberately avoided her tear-filled eyes and said calmly, You know I have. Impossible. In a corner of the grand hall, Mrs. Hayes broke down. She threw her purse at her son in a fit of rage, all her public composure gone. I will not allow it. My son will not be a homosexual. Evan stood there, taking the blows, his expression cold as he watched it all unfold. His temple had been scratched during the argument, and blood trickled down his pale, almost jade-like face. But he remained silent, standing quietly by the ornate pillar. Evan, please don't do this to me. The woman covered her face and let out a desperate sob, helpless tears leaking through her fingers. You asked me not to go after Julian for writing that love letter, and I agreed. And even that boy, you asked me not to touch him, and I agreed to that too. Why can't you just do this for me? Why do you never listen to your mother? Are you going to leave me just like your father did? I was stunned for a moment. I watched as Evan slowly wiped the blood from his face, his pale features completely lifeless. Mom, we both know. He gave a bitter smile, but there was no humor in his eyes. You knew Dad was gay long ago, but you still drugged him and forced him to marry you. When I was little, after you divorced, you told me it was because Dad was promiscuous that he was fooling around with men. You told me being gay was the most disgusting thing in the world. That love letter in high school, I knew that even if you found out who wrote it, you wouldn't let it go. So I never told the truth. I just didn't want anyone else to get hurt because of my dysfunctional family. Evan's gaze, directed toward where I stood, was empty and desolate. I have lived my whole life according to your rules. But Mom, what am I supposed to do now? I'm gay too. You said being gay was disgusting, so I told the person who loved me, I told him to stay away from you. I told him to get away from me. I even said I hated gay people the most. He was so stupid. He believed me, and now I can't find him anymore. When the call from the paramedics came, I was right there, watching Evan listen numbly to the news of my death. The voice on the other end was serious and full of regret. Is this Mr. Hayes? This is the police department. Is a Mike your friend? We found your contact information in his call history. The last few calls he made before he died were to you. Now, we need you to come to the station to identify his body. I don't know him. I don't know any Mike. You're lying to me. Evan closed his bloodshot eyes. The initial shock wore off, and his voice became eerily calm. How could he be dead? He slowly lowered his head, his body feeling like it was being flayed, his heart cut into 1,000 pieces. He loved to lie to me. It's not possible. Son, don't be like this. Please don't. I'll go with you. I'll help you find him. I'll help you find Mike. Just don't do this to yourself. Mrs. Hayes cried as she tried to pry open Evan's hand. He was gripping his own hand so tightly that blood dripped onto the floor. At the police station, I saw a familiar little boy standing by the door, nervously asking his mother, "Mommy, is that man dead?" The woman pulled him into her arms and comforted him. "Why would you think that, sweetie? The big brother was just very tired, so he fell asleep." I followed a silent Evan to the morgue. Peeking over his shoulder, I saw myself lying peacefully on a cold table, covered by a white sheet. Maybe because it was so cold, my body was bruised and discolored, a little ugly, but Evan didn't seem to see any of it. With trembling hands, he leaned close to me and whispered, his voice so soft, as if he were afraid of disturbing my dream. "I'm sorry." Evan gently kissed my stiff forehead, his apology a soft breath. "I'm sorry. I was too late. I'm sorry." And at the very end, he finally broke down completely, sobbing, "I'm sorry. I never got the chance to love you right. I'm so sorry." The day of the funeral, everyone came. Even that kid Julian was there, his eyes red from crying, kneeling in front of my grave. "Mike, I'm sorry. Thank you for taking the blame for that love letter back then. I'm sorry. It's only now that I have the courage to tell the truth. I'm really so sorry." But he'd only been kneeling for a few minutes before Evan appeared. He had his bodyguards clear the area, ignoring the stunned looks from everyone else. Then he knelt down himself, his fingers stroking the simple platinum ring on his left ring finger. It held my ashes. He kissed my gravestone, tears streaming down his smiling face. "Don't be scared. This life, I'll do the hard work. I'll take you to see all the sights of the world. In the next life, have a little pity on me. Don't forget to come find me."